everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Marble It Up. It's been a while since I did a Let's Look at. I figured, you know what? I got a little bit more space in my professional life now. Why not take a look at some new and upcoming games on the Steam Marketplace? And where better to start, cough cough, than the long-forgotten genre of spherical, marble-based platformers in the same vein as Marble Blast Ultra. A blast from the past from the Xbox 360 era. By the way, also a game I've never played. I've played Marble It Up for like 45 minutes, but all the reviews for this are like, man, it's a real nostalgic throwback to the era of Marble Blast Ultra. And I'm like, I have never played that, so I am totally the wrong guy to check this out, so I'm glad you're watching the video. That being said, I do like puzzle platformers, and this is a puzzle platformer. It's almost like Sonic the Hedgehog, but instead of playing a hedgehog, you're playing a sphere. Is that an upgrade, a side grade, a lateral move, a downgrade? I'll leave that up to you. I bought this myself. It was 20 bucks. Let's get started, because what you see is what you get. A little bit, right off the bat, I'm just going to tell you straight up, it's a little bit content light, but the price also does reflect that, as far as I'm concerned, for 2018 anyway. Let's do some of the basic levels here, and I will just explain to you what's happening here. You're probably going to be able to figure it out for yourself. I am using the controller here. So there's a couple of different varieties of levels, but they all pretty much adhere to like the same kind of methodology. You are a marble. By the way, I probably could not have picked like a less satisfying level to start things off. Right now, this kind of looks like the default Unity Skybox, Game Jam prototype. I apologize to the developers for saying it, but I will not apologize to you for thinking it. Let's do a level that's a little bit more exciting than that. Ignore that, okay? Why don't we just go into something like, let's do Onwards and Upwards right off the bat. So, you play as this marble, who is named Jerome, as far as I'm concerned, and if you try to argue with my headcanon, you can leave. What you try to do is, you get to the goal, obviously. Some of the levels have gems that you need to collect in order to unlock the goal, but it's never like, at least so far, it's never been like you have to really, examine the ins and outs, the knots and the pits in order to figure them out, or hit switches or anything like that. They're pretty much always out in the open. It's a speed-based game where your goal is going to be just to get to the end as quickly as possible, while also not dying in the process, which becomes increasingly difficult. Because I know you're going to look at this right off the bat and you're going to say, I am a hardcore gamer. This is too easy for me. All I'm doing is holding the analog stick upwards. Well, true, but just by doing it right there, I did do it 2 seconds faster than I did it last time, and that's a little bit of the meat of the game, is trying to, beat your own scores. And I'm going to try to get a platinum medal here, because this is the tutorial level. And to not have all platinums makes me feel like I have done myself a disservice to some extent. Hold up. One moment, please. Thank you. A gold is okay. Alright, all golds, I'll have to live with that. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, NL, it's a little bit basic in an era, where we got a little more advanced games of this. And to some extent, I do think you're right. There isn't a whole lot going on here, but as you get into the levels, they become a little bit more devilish. Like, I don't know, let's move forward to something that maybe I didn't do so well on. Over the Garden Wall is kind of a cool example. By the way, apologies for the mouse pointer. Trust me, I'll talk about some of that stuff later. Once you get into levels like this, there actually is a little bit of, dare I suggest, like an innate... I'm gonna restart that one. Like an innate human satisfaction to this. Because you realize the first few levels didn't really capture my attention, but basically that's because they more or less just consisted of, holding up until you get to the goal. On these levels, you realize getting to the goal is not the problem. Getting to the goal is easy. The problem is getting to the goal, in the kind of time frame that allows you to get a good score. Are you telling me silver on this one is 55 seconds? That's an embarrassment. Hold on, let's go back to something like Bump of the Night, see if we can get a better score here. It really is, a good way to describe this, I think, is almost like a spherical Trials. It's a game where, in Trials, for the most part, until you get into like the later levels, it's not actually that difficult to just beat the level. It mostly just comes down to do you have the kind of perseverance and tenacity to make it, to accept failing 10 or 12 times per obstacle, Once you get to the later levels, it's a little bit more difficult, admittedly, but it's more about, can you do it perfectly? Can you do it without getting any faults? Can you do it in an adequate time frame, and can you combine all of them? So here, you really have to get a little bit, I wouldn't say a mastery of the physics, but you start to see that the meat of the game is not actually just, am I capable of accomplishing this task? The meat of the game is, looking at a ski resort like this and figuring out what the fastest route down to the bottom is. And there's some power-ups you might be able to get along the way, for example, that could help you out as well. And I'm not necessarily, very good at it at all, to be honest with you. There's also, and I'm going to do this level again, because I don't think we're going to set any high scores here. You know what it's like? You ever play Mario Kart 64? You know the level, well, that was slow. Let's try again. You know the level Wario Stadium, where they have the ramps, the dirt ramps? And as a kid, you're like, I gotta jump off of the top of the dirt ramp to land on the downslope of the one that comes after it in order to maximize my speed like Niki Lauda. That's pretty much the meat of trying to score attack this game. Now, admittedly, there are also time attack, I guess, but admittedly there are also levels that are collection based, as you saw first. I think those levels are definitely, your mileage may vary. For me, those levels are not the most fun levels in the game. I have way more fun trying to get to the end as quickly as possible, as opposed to just, going through a small maze to get the gems as quickly as I can. I much prefer the physics to the collectathon sort of thing, but that's, par for the course. So hold on here. I've never been much of a skier, so I don't have the requisite skills here. But I'm trying to codify it in my head, and I'm like, well, what we want to do, I think, is you want to jump over the upper slopes and land on the down slopes in order to maximize your momentum going downwards and minimize the amount of time that you actually have to climb. I hope that's the case, at least. I think this is maybe very slightly faster than my previous attempts. Hey, we actually golded it. Okay. That's what you just saw right there for the past 2 or 3 minutes is a pretty good representation of when I think this game is at its best. So just from that, you're either going to go, I get it, or you're going to go, I don't get it at all. And if you don't get it at all, stay far away, because this is what you do. You roll a marble down a course, more or less, with your control. It's kind of like Super Monkey Ball, but a little bit less... Silly is not the word I'm looking for. A little bit less cartoony, but still pretty cartoony. Anyway, let's try some of the later levels here. Let's do a longer course so you can sort of see it. So there are also, in addition to those race levels, there's kind of puzzle levels as well. And this, again, is kind of where I realized, it's not... That's fine. It's not the most complex game on the planet, but there's a certain joy to its movement. Here, just while I'm standing still, okay? This is gonna seem like I'm forcing it a little bit, but I mean this for real. You might not see it on this level, but, there will be times where you'll be traveling really, really fast in one direction, and then there's a cliff. What you can do... It's not a great example here, but, you have control of your marble in the air, but only if it spins. So you can actually put, a little impulse on it, if that makes sense. So, I'm going real fast here. I want to stop. You try to put some backspin on yourself mid-air so that when you land, you get a little bit of an impulse in the negative direction. It stops you from going over the edge. And, you can do the same thing. You land here. Oh, I'm going to go off. Now I'm going to the right. Or left, I should say. Now I'm going to the right. Now I'm falling off because I'm bad. You get the idea. You need to use some of these techniques in order to, get the best times possible. So it's not just an exclusively meditative experience. There is a little bit of platforming pseudo-mastery involved at some point. There are checkpoints, by the way, but I don't live that kind of lifestyle. Now, I do have some minor... Well, not minor... But, sometimes I think, I fall victim to the idea that, just because something's not inherent in the game itself, that it's a minor complaint, if it's related to the machinations of the game, if that makes any... See, here's a good example right there of using the impulse to slow us down. What I mean by this, without using ambiguous verbiage, when I was playing it last night, I was getting unbelievable music and audio skips, and it was very, very, very distracting. It's going to sound like a minor complaint right now because the music and sounds, as far as I can tell, are behaving as normal. But something was going wrong. I don't know if an Alt-Tab had thrown things into, a frenzy or something like that. But there were really, really bad audio hiccups, basically. And I've seen other Steam reviews that are talking about that as well. It was distracting to the point of making it unpleasant to play. Now, there is a valid argument, I suppose, to, well, just don't Alt-Tab, but I don't think it's realistic for modern PC gaming. Sometimes you're going to be watching something on Netflix while you're playing a game like this, and you're going to be like, I don't want to watch this anymore, it kind of stinks. You got to hit him with that Alt-Tab, Dad. Well, okay. Have we done it? I'll take it. That was 19 seconds faster than my previous time. What an embarrassment. Hold on, let's go check out some of the levels I've never done before. Like, for example, Cog Valley. So yeah, it was, all I can really say is that it was pretty distracting to the point of not really wanting to play it anymore. But it seems like a reboot has fixed it, which is nice. And then on top of that, and these are pretty minor complaints, but I think it's actually, from a user satisfaction standpoint, it is worth bringing up. Sorry, I'm just kind of freeballing this level here. When it's got one of my #1 pet peeves in a game, which is, like, just from a graphical standpoint, which is when you Alt-Tab, if you're in full screen mode, it takes you down to windowed mode, and then you have to go back in the graphical settings to switch back to full screen, or hit Alt-Enter, which is the shortcut for most executables. Just little things like that are they kind of are emblematic of a certain lack of polish, if that makes sense. And it is, it's definitely a smaller game. I guess we just go down here. Or, I see it. I think I see it. I don't think I should be going here. Hold up, let's retry. Just follow the signs, probably. It's the correct answer. Little things like that where, you probably wouldn't be too concerned about it. I am an idiot. But it's worth bringing up, because it does diminish the experience a little bit. It takes you out of it. And again, it's not 1996. Like, when you launch a computer game in today's modern day and age, you expect to be able to switch to other processes without, like, inhibiting your quality of enjoyment. And if we're going to rail on stuff like, Fallout 76 for not having, an FOV option, I think it's a valid criticism even in an indie game. For the graphical and audio settings to be a little bit spotty sometimes. So I definitely would not give this, a 10 out of 10 glowing recommendation, but I do also need to put a caveat in there, and the caveat is that I have no nostalgia whatsoever for this style of game, if that makes any sense. So if you were a big fan of... I'm still losing it. How are we going to do this? He's done it. Turns out it was actually highly simple, and then I threw it all away. If you're a big fan of Marble Blast Ultra or other games in the same variety, I hear Marbles on Stream is kind of similar to this as well, but I haven't checked that out yet myself, despite being a streamer. How strange is that? You might want to give it a shot if you like what you see. If you don't have any nostalgia for the genre, I still kind of like it. But I'm a little bit more, lukewarm on it. I'm a little milquetoast on it, if that makes sense. Now, it does have things that don't interest me, but warrants mentioning. For example, it has a level editor. This is the kind of thing that, I basically never touch in any game ever, except Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. But if you're the kind of person who is likely to make their own custom levels, might interest you a little bit. For me personally, not the sort of thing that I'm into. There is also, and again, please take this with a grain of salt, because I don't want you talking to me 6 months from now and being like, NL, where's this thing you promised? I'm not involved in the creation of this game, okay? I'm just getting the Spyro the Dragon gems here and trying to keep myself, having a coherent and cogent stream of consciousness dialogue going. Apparently, there is a multiplayer mode. No! planned for the future. I don't know if it's local. I don't know if it's online. All I know is developers have said that there's multiplayer coming in an update at a later date, but no time is known right now. I'm a bit of a cynic sometimes. To me, that means, don't hold your breath. I'm not saying they don't have the intention to do it. I'm just saying, the road to heck is paved with good intentions, to keep it PG-13. Now, I'm a fool. You are seeing a little bit more of the physics variety as well. In particular, ice exists. Ice is very difficult to maneuver on, and that's where you're going to need, or at least be potentially interested in using things like that, backspin jump, which I've invented, popularized, and now is being used at the World Championships, of course. Again, these are the levels that I find the least enjoyable, for sure. Levels where you're just, trying to collect the gems. I don't find that nearly as interesting as the levels where you're kind of trying to maximize the architecture in order to finish it as quickly as possible. I will also say that it's a little bit content light, as mentioned earlier in the video. There's only 5 chapters so far, I believe, and this is the end of... this is the start of chapter 4, I think, and I've got maybe, as of now, like an hour of playtime. So it's definitely something where, if you're somebody who's concerned with like the time value of money when it comes to games, and usually I'm not that kind of person, but this is an example where maybe it's a little bit more relevant. I think you kind of look at this and you go, well, in order for me to get my money's worth at full price, I would probably want to take advantage of some of the Steam Workshop opportunities here. And there are some levels on the Steam Workshop that I haven't checked out for myself yet, because I haven't completed the full campaign yet. But I would say overall a positive but still mixed bag is really where I feel about Marble It Up right here. Certainly, I think if you have a connection previously to the genre, that might sell you a little bit more than it sold me. But it's still a reasonably satisfying physics platforming experience, I think. And at my core, I'm a gamer who likes mechanics, and the mechanic actually on display here, it works, it's accessible, it's reasonably satisfying most of the time. So yeah, I can see the appeal here. Maybe not for me long term, but it's kind of like a simplified and, without being rude, maybe a little bit of a less stylish Rock of Ages or something like that. Now, for my money, I am an idiot. For my money, I still prefer Rock of Ages, It's got a lot of advantages. I know Rock of Ages is a little bit different than this, but, it has competitive multiplayer across multiple modes. It's got, ridiculous art design that is, even if it's not your thing, it's kind of at least noteworthy, at least a little interesting to talk about. And of course you can play with your friends online, but, I think there's a niche for this as well. And it pretty much sums up my thoughts on Marble It Up here, but in the interim period, I'm hoping that maybe I can make it to the exit as well. I will say it's a much more pleasant experience without the, there we go. Excuse me. Please, thank you. I am a fool yet again. It's a much more pleasant experience without the audio hiccups. So I was coming into this video like I'm gonna knock them out. But no, now that the audio is actually fixed for whatever reason, everything is a much more pleasant experience, let's put it that way. And again, it's not a $30 game. When I got into this industry, 400 years ago, $10, $15, that was the price of your typical independent video game entertainment product on the Steam distribution platform. We've moved on. Inflation at a rate of roughly 3% a year has happened. $20 for, a polished, a reasonably polished independent experience. I don't think it's out of the question, but you definitely, still simultaneously have to reconcile with yourself if this is the kind of thing that you would dedicate your time to, not just your money. And of course, beyond that, you're probably saying, NL, but what about the stagnated wage growth? I've got many graphs here that show the purchasing power of a dollar in 1980 versus the purchasing power of a dollar now versus the... Okay, look, I'm not really that kind of channel, okay? I'm just trying to absolve myself of any sort of responsibility while also rolling a sphere down a track, and you're hitting me with all this, you know, ethical, political, socio-economic stuff that I don't have the capacity or toolkit to actually answer for myself. Let's try another level here. This will be the last one for sure, though. So yeah, marble it up. I feel like my criticism is not even that warranted here. What you see is what you get, obviously. You're a marble. I'm gonna make it. I am not gonna make it. If I had more time, I could come up with some pithy one-liners. For example, have a ball playing Marble It Up. Is there a hardcore marbling community out there? And I'm not talking about stakes. I guess I should ask Nick. It seems like a Nick thing. It's also from the Nick era of video games, the dawn of the 360 generation. I gotta know. This is also the sort of thing I could see making it for like one segment on the NLSS. If the multiplayer comes out and also works. Which is not, just by saying that it sounds like I'm being insulting. That's not my intention. It's just, you know, I've been around the block a few times. Okay, we want to go that way. Sometimes the best laid plans of mice and men don't come to fruition. You are an idiot and a fool. Now, I could see less experienced gamers, less hardcore esports-esque athletes as myself, being mad that there's some levels with great distance between checkpoints. I'm not mad about it because I'm like, please. I'm the kind of guy who, like, I could get 90% of the way through a trials level, and then if I fall at the end, I'm like, no, it's not perfect, so I gotta restart. And it's very dumb. That's probably, like, the worst conceivable way to ever iterate on making yourself better, but, you know, I come by it honestly. Why would you jump there? Luckily you were saved, but why would you jump there? Hey, excuse me, sir. It can be a little frustrating to make it, you know, a minute into a level and then have to restart over and over and over and over and over. But, you know, it is what it is. It depends on the kind of person you are. Now, here's where I'm like, you know, do I really have to mention it? I should probably mention it. There's other skins for the marbles. If you're watching this video and you're going, well, you know, the game looks pretty cool. I just wish there were alternate skins for the marbles or something along those lines. Okay. You've gotten your wish. I've unlocked a few of them. If you want a different albedo and mask for the sphere, you're gonna get your wish, partner. And we'll check that out to tick off every single box. Some of the levels, maybe a little long as well. I'll give you that one. I don't know if this is like one of the landmark levels. Anytime you get to 2 minutes, I'm like, you know what? I mean, you could probably beat this in like 45 seconds if you know what you're doing, but yeah, we got like a bronze. A little embarrassing. Anyway, so check it out, you know? Don't forget about the customization. We got like 8 different balls here, including a smiley face, and don't forget about toxic wood, and that's the universe, I think, and this one's just a rock. Anyway, it's Marble It Up. Sorry, it's pure steel. My mistake. You know, again, I can't stress enough. It's self-evident. What you see is what you get. If you like what you're looking at, you can pick it up on Steam. It's 20 bucks, 10% off for its opening week sale. I did purchase this with my own hard-earned Canadian dollars. Link will be in the video description below. Certainly not for everybody. Definitely an easier sell. If multiplayer, especially online multiplayer, comes to it, you can get involved in races or something like that, is how I think the most logical implementation of that would be. But for now, reasonably entertaining, and if you're, you know, searching for the games that you played during the salad days of your youth, maybe Marble It Up is going to tickle your fancy. For now, it feels good to be back. Thanks for watching. Again, you can check out the game if you're interested in the video description below. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe. Maybe making more Let's Look Ats now that I got more space in my professional life. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/northernlight to be notified when I go live. I do lots of first impression style stuff like this. Like the video, it helps out a great deal. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. See ya!